It's really crazy how different this game gets in between updates. I recognize it less and less. That's only even more of a reason to make a new drafting guide though. Like always, this guide is taken from my experience in Diamond and Master level games. Since this is based on higher tier games, it won't completely line up with lower tiers. This is also based on PC play, so it also won't completely line up with console either. Anyway, let's start off with tanks. Like always, Makoa is still the best tank in the game. He did get a few nerfs, but his hook is still a pick if landed, and it still lands through walls sometimes, so it has a lot of leeway. Makoa is still a great first pick and ban in really any game on any map. Then there's Inara. There's a lot of factors contributing to Inara's rise to power. These factors are diminishing returns, flanks coming back into the meta, and the nerfs to her counters. Diminishing returns has made her more durable and harder to kill. Flanks coming back into the meta brings even more value to her treacherous ground legendary, and several characters that get heavy damage on her have fallen out of viability or have become weaker, like Willow and Drogos. There is of course still BK, but with BK being the best blaster right now, he's susceptible to being banned, and if he is, then there isn't a lot to easily take Inara on. So yeah, Inara is really good right now. I think Inara is better as a counter pick to double direct damage dealers and flankers, but there aren't really many downsides to first picking her either. If you plan to run mobile characters or if BK gets banned, then banning Inara isn't a bad idea. Now let's talk about our other stone giant, Terminus. He's now available in competitive, and even after the nerfs, I think he's still a very powerful character. He can still be very difficult to kill. He still has a lot of damage reduction, and Power Siphon is still a very powerful ability. I'd argue that it's one of the best in the game, really only behind Makoa's hook. Unlike barriers, Power Siphon can absorb an infinite amount of damage and be dropped and raised on command. It can also be used at key moments to block damage that would normally be devastating, like a Fire Spit salvo. Power Siphon is extremely valuable in seemingly limitless situations, and on top of the value from blocking the damage in the first place, you are further rewarded with charges that can be used to give you more damage reduction or to get heavy burst damage onto a target. This one ability alone gives so much value to the character. I'd say Terminus' only big weakness is that his only source of consistent DPS doesn't really have any range. So on big open maps, you're not going to want to pick him. Outside of those maps though, I'd say he's a great first pick or ban candidate. I also want to add that if you pair him with Inara and then get Maldamba to pump all that heavy healing into them, you're going to have a very hard to break tank core for your team. So those three are the top tanks right now in my opinion. Then there is of course tanks like Ashe, Ruckus, and Torv who have all received nerfs but are still good at what they did before, so they're all good picks in the same situations. They're just not really at the top like they once were. Then there's Fernando and Barrack. Barrack has been hit hard with nerfs and it hurts his viability. I don't consider him a bad character, he's still useful. He can still lock down the point very well once he sets up on it, and he can still do quite a bit of damage, but just not to the same degree. As for Fernando, I don't think he's a bad character either, I just think the other tanks are better for the most part. Okay, so now on to damage dealers. The best ones right now are Bomb King and Shaolin. Like I said before, the nerfs to Willow and Drogos and the fact that they both have a ton of counters makes BK the best blaster in the game right now. Being the best blaster, he's a very important and powerful pick. So he's definitely somebody you can't go wrong with first picking or banning. Shaolin is the top direct damage dealer, even after the nerfs he got. I've said it before, Shaolin is like the perfect character. He's good on basically every map in any situation, and he takes on anything that isn't a tank by himself, especially flanks. He destroys flanks. So I'd say he's a very valuable asset to have. I wouldn't exactly put him over the three tanks I mentioned and BK though. Leon is another good direct damage dealer. Leon would stand up pretty well with Shaolin, but Leon is so very buggy. For a while, there's been this bug with Presence and Valor where they would no-reg if there was something in front of your feet or the enemy's feet. On top of that, there is now a bug where Valor completely no-regs even if something isn't in the way of yours or their feet. So this hurts her Alacrity Legendary since it hurts the whole Grace, Valor, then Grace again build that she has going on. And the Alacrity Legendary is the go-to. Eminence is also a really good legendary, but it has a bug where it randomly won't give you any bonus damage. It isn't consistent, so it isn't good. This really leaves Precision as the only legendary that isn't going to suffer from a bug, and it's the weakest one. Leanne is still good, but not a priority pick. If If they ever fix these bugs, I see her rising up to where Shaw is easily. Now, about when to pick Drogos and Willow, the only time you're really going to want to pick these two is if PK is banned, taken, or no one on your team can play him and you need the AoE. And even then, you'd want Drogos and not Willow. Drogos has more power to make up for having so many counters. Willow doesn't. If you get Drogos, your team needs something that counters his counters though. If you can draft Drogos without the enemy getting any counters, then he's going to be a very destructive force. Then there's Cassie. So Cassie's somebody I think has a lot of potential, but I don't want to give my opinion on her in this drafting guide. Cassie needs more time for people to mess with her and see where she fits into the game after the incitement nerf. Now Tyra. Okay, hear me out. A lot of people say Tyra is really bad and they put her very low on tier lists. I don't agree. I think with the way the game is right now, Tyra can get some really substantial value because I'd say Tyra is the answer to the Inara Terminus core, and that's because of Firebomb. Firebomb does percentage damage. Inara and Terminus's damage reduction is useless against that. They're both also pretty slow, so they can't get out of it quickly. With Terminus, you can throw the Firebomb down while he's power siphoning and he can't block the fire. He either has to keep the power siphon up and burn while he slowly backs up, or drop it and get hit by whatever he was trying to block while he runs out. Hunting Party will also get major damage off on these two as well. Like I've said before, Hunting Party is low-key OP. As for the other damages, they're in the same spot. Strix and Kinessa are good on maps with long sight lines and they dominate on Timber Mill. Victor is a niche pick that is good, but only in certain situations. Okay, on to support. So as far as the main healers go, it's all the same. Genos and Maldamba are both really good. Genos is better for more spread out and divier comps. Maldamba is better for more bulky, close together comps. Ying and Ceres are below them, so you only want to pick them when Genos or Maldamba is banned, or if Genos is taken and you don't have somebody who can play Mal. Now, I do have to say that Mal is technically the best out of all of them hands down right now, because he's bugged. His Ripen Gourd legendary is double the size of its visual radius, so you can be out of it and still get slowed, damaged, or healed. It's really broken and I hope they fix it soon. Moving on from the main healers, there's the off healers. Grover is still the same, he is very good on maps with long sight lines and he dominates Timber Mill. Pip is probably still best off avoided. Then there's Grok. Grok is a damage beast, guys. He can put out a ton of damage with Maelstrom. He is great against team comps that naturally stay together, as well as against Ying and Barrack, and he's especially good on Frog Isle and Ice Mines because teams are normally always grouped up on those maps. On those two maps, I can see him being a good first pick or ban candidate. Outside of those two maps, I'd save him for later in the draft. Now for flanks. Andro and Buck are the best. Andro did of course get nerfed, but that's reversible through cards and he still deletes people faster than they can breathe, so you know. As for Buck, he didn't really receive any nerfs, just a fix that makes resilience affect Bounce House, so he's still pretty dumb. But he is also pretty weird. I've been seeing him get banned quite a bit, and I myself have banned him a lot, but here's the thing. He's at his strongest against a poorly coordinated team. If a team isn't coordinated, Buck can just jump in and wreak havoc. Against a team that is coordinated, he's still good, he just isn't overwhelming or ban-worthy. I've been banning Buck as more of a safety precaution because I never know if my team is going to be able to deal with him or not. Now, I usually always base this guide off of if both teams are playing correctly, so I'm going to say he's not worth first picking or banning because of that, but if you're paranoid like me, it is a good safety precaution. But again, it's a precaution. It can easily prove less effective than first picking or banning the other things I mentioned. As for the other flanks, Maeve is still pretty good, not the powerhouse that she once was, so no need for first picking or banning, but she gets the job done. Talus is also somebody I'd say is pretty good. Similar to Maeve, he isn't a total powerhouse or anything, but he gets the job done, at least on the maps with no verticality. I would say he's the best of the flanks that don't have vertical mobility. Now, I do want to add, this is if you actually know how to play him, because for the most part, every Talus I see in competitive does not know how to play him. The only times I've seen where he's been successful is in esports, because those players know how to play him. If you aren't 100% confident on Talus, do not take him, because at that point, he's as bad as Lex, Xin, or Skye. As for those three, Lex and Xin can be pretty good on maps with no verticality, but flanks like Andro, Buck, Maeve, and Talus can be even better, so why would you pick them? I definitely can see the argument for picking Lex in certain situations on those maps, but not Xin. Never pick Xin. Xin is only ever good against teams that don't know how to deal with him, or teams that aren't working together. Xin was buffed, but he was also nerfed, and what made him any good was how long he can survive through abusing his abilities. And that's what's been nerfed. So he's even worse against teams that know what they're doing. So again, don't pick Xin. His value is entirely based on a gamble. Skye, I don't think Skye is bad per se, but I don't think Skye is worth picking at the same time. The damage from Debilitate could be good against Anara and Terminus, but I just don't find it reliable enough. Oh yeah, almost forgot. Eevee. I want to say Eevee is on par with Maven Talus. Not the best, but gets the job done. However, Eevee keeps getting nerfed for no reason, and Eevee is so buggy. You could Ice Block or Blink and die like neither of those things ever happened. And those are the big ones to me. You do everything right and you still die. It's not worth it. Those moments could screw you out of games. And that's it for the OB62 drafting guide. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I'm always eager to get your opinions on things. Other people could point out things that maybe I didn't see or didn't think about, so it's always good to get the discussion going. And that's pretty much it, guys. I want to thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it, and I'm going to see you guys later. Bye!